A group of humans, armed with nothing but sticks and stones, successfully killed a creature 6 times their size. And the strategy they used was so calculated, so ruthless, it almost doesn't seem human. But it absolutely was. Welcome. Today we're going back roughly 20,000 years to a world that would be almost unrecognizable to us. The Earth was colder, darker, and considerably more dangerous. Temperatures regularly dropped to -40 degrees. Glaciers covered a third of the planet. Food was almost impossible to find. In this world, the woolly mammoth was the single most valuable resource a human tribe could find. One mammoth could feed an entire tribe for months. Its bones built shelters, its hide made clothing, its fat fueled fires. A single kill meant survival. Missing meant starvation. So how exactly did a group of early humans with no metal, no horses, no advanced tools of any kind, reliably take down an animal that weighed up to 6 tons and stood 13 feet tall? The answer involves traps, cliffs, fire, exhaustion, and a level of group coordination that genuinely surprises archaeologists today. Let's start with the most important thing you need to understand about a woolly mammoth. It was not invincible. It was just very, very big. And that size, that very thing that made it so dangerous, was also its biggest weakness. A mammoth needed enormous amounts of food every single day, up to 700 pounds of vegetation. In winter, when vegetation was buried under feet of ice and snow, mammoths were already stressed, already weakened. Early humans knew this. They watched these animals for generations. They understood their rhythms. This knowledge wasn't written down, it was passed mouth to mouth, fire to fire, generation to generation, and it formed the foundation of the most effective prehistoric hunting strategy we know of. Strategy number 1. The surrogate herd. Mammoths, like elephants today, were deeply social animals. They moved in herds led by matriarchs. When the herd moved, everyone moved. When the matriarch stopped, everyone stopped. They were a unit. Hunters learned that if they could isolate a single mammoth from its herd, the animal became disoriented, vulnerable. To do this, they would circle wide around a grazing herd and appear on multiple sides simultaneously. Not to attack, just to be there, just to create pressure. The herd would begin to panic. And like any panicking crowd, the slowest and weakest member would fall behind. Usually a juvenile, an elderly animal, or one that was already sick or injured. That was the one. Once isolated, the real hunt began. But here's the part that surprises people. They didn't just run at it and stab it. That would get you killed. A panicked mammoth could crush 10 men without slowing down. Instead, they did something far more patient, far more unsettling. Strategy 2. The exhaustion hunt. This technique is called persistence hunting, and it's one of the most psychologically disturbing things early humans did. The idea is brutally simple. You don't outrun the animal, you outlast it. Mammoths were enormous. Moving through deep snow burned through their energy at a shocking rate. Humans, on the other hand, are uniquely built for long-distance endurance. We sweat. We shed heat efficiently. A mammoth cannot sweat the same way. It overheats. Its muscles cramp. Its legs give out. And the hunters simply followed for hours, sometimes days. Every time the mammoth stopped to rest, they pushed forward, never letting it fully recover. This is a form of psychological torture as much as physical. The animal couldn't escape, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Archaeological evidence suggests some hunts lasted up to 3 days. 3 days of relentless following. By the end, the mammoth was barely standing, and the humans were still walking. That is the moment they moved in for the kill, not before. But persistence hunting wasn't the only method. Not every hunt lasted 3 days. Sometimes they used the land itself as a weapon. Strategy 3, the cliff drive. This required incredible teamwork and planning. It wasn't spontaneous, it was rehearsed. First, the hunters would scout for terrain. Specifically, they looked for cliffs, steep ravines, or boggy marshland. These were natural kill zones, places where a large animal's size became a fatal disadvantage. Once a location was chosen, the hunters would wait for a mammoth herd to graze nearby. Then they lit fires. dozens of them, spread in a wide arc behind the herd. Mammoths, like most large animals, are terrified of fire. It triggers a primal panic response. The herd would run. But the only direction without fire was toward the cliff. Hunters also screamed, waved torches, and threw burning debris to steer the animals with terrifying precision. This technique is called a game drive. Evidence of it has been found at sites across North America, Europe, and Siberia. At Solutré in France, archaeologists found the bones of over 100,000 horses at the base of a single cliff. 100,000. That's not an accident. That's a strategy used repeatedly over thousands of years. But what about when there were no cliffs? No natural terrain to exploit? That's when they dug. Strategy 4. The pit trap. Digging a pit large enough to trap a mammoth in frozen ground with bone tools is nearly impossible. And they did it anyway. These pits were typically dug near mammoth migration routes, places the animals returned to every season. The pit was covered with branches, leaves, and snow, hidden completely, a perfectly invisible trap. Then the hunters simply waited, sometimes for days. When a mammoth stepped onto the hidden cover, it would collapse instantly. The animal fell in and couldn't climb out. Trapped in a hole, disoriented, unable to use its size or speed, the mammoth was finally at the mercy of the hunters. Some pits show signs of repeated use, meaning the same trap was reset and used again and again. These weren't just desperate hunts. This was infrastructure. This was industry. Now, we need to talk about the weapons, because they were more sophisticated than most people imagine. The standard weapon was a thrusting spear, about 8 feet long with a sharpened flint or bone tip. But the real game changer was an invention called the atlatl, a spear-throwing device. The atlatl worked like an extension of the arm. It multiplied throwing force by up to 300%. A spear thrown with an atlatl could reach speeds of over 90 miles per hour, with enough force to punch through mammoth hide. This invention changed everything. Hunters no longer had to get dangerously close to use their weapons. They could wound from a safe distance. Let the blood loss and exhaustion do the rest. This combination of technology and strategy is what made early humans such effective hunters. Not strength, intelligence. But there's something else we haven't talked about yet. Something that might be the most important element of all. The social structure of the hunting group itself. Modern archaeology and anthropology suggest these groups were incredibly well organized, almost militaristic. There were scouts who tracked herds and reported back, specialists who built traps, designated drivers for the cliff hunts. There is strong evidence of a division of labor dating back 40,000 years. This was team hunting, not just brave individuals charging at a mammoth, a coordinated unit with roles, signals, and a shared plan. Some researchers believe this level of cooperation is actually what accelerated human cognitive evolution. Hunting mammoths didn't just feed us. It may have made us smarter. Now here's the part that keeps archaeologists up at night. The woolly mammoth went extinct approximately 4,000 years ago, and humans almost certainly played a role. The same strategies that allowed our ancestors to survive eventually became so effective they hunted entire species to extinction. It is estimated that by 10,000 years ago, human hunters had driven over 40 large mammal species to extinction. The woolly mammoth, the mastodon, the giant ground sloth, the saber-toothed cat. Gone. All of them. The strategy that saved us from starvation became the strategy that emptied the world. And the tools changed. The targets changed. But the strategy, honestly, not that much. We are, at our core, the same patient, coordinated, relentless hunters we were 20,000 years ago. The mammoth just taught us how good at it we really are. If you found this unsettling, good. That means you were paying attention.